What's going on, guys? Today I want to talk a little bit about tires. I'm redoing tires on my flatbed trailer. So I'm going to pull this tire off real quick, and then I just want to show you a couple of things about these tires that I'm working on. So I've been talking a lot in these camping forums about tires lately. A lot of trailer forums. Everybody wants to talk about tires. All right. So this is a tire I have laying around. This is a Trail Express Load Range C. And you can see your sidewalls here. They're thick at the bead sealing area. They immediately taper down. They're about this thick. So this is a Load Range C tire, 4 plies, 2 polyester, 2 steel, only 2 sidewall plies, and I didn't catch what the load rating on this was. 1,800 pounds. So this is like what you'll find on a lot of new campers. It's just a really cheap Chinese tire with a minimal load rating capacity. It's going to have nylon or polyester plies, and it's a tire, but you know, these just have a really bad reputation. People call them China bombs. We ourselves had Castle Rocks, which is a Chinese tire. They were a Load Range D and a 15-inch, which was just inadequate for our toy hauler. They were very similar in construction to this tire. So then it's that avalanche in the corner. So in your camping forums, a lot of people are going to recommend you upgrade to a Goodyear and a Load Range E. The most popular one that people recommend is the Goodyear Endurance. Now these are not an Endurance. This is a 10-year-old tire I had on a flatbed of mine. And as you can see, this particular axle had a braking issue that has been corrected, but it wore this tire out really quickly. And this was replaced some time ago. This is just a spare. But this is a Load Range D, and you can see immediately how much thicker this bead sealing area is. The sidewall is considerably thicker. So this is a Goodyear Marathon. This is a modern equivalent. Sorry, the modern equivalent to this is the Endurance. The Marathon was their better tire 10 years ago when this was made. So this is the Load Range D, 5 plies, 2 polyester, 2 steel, 1 nylon. And your sidewall still is only 2 polyester plies. So when a lot of people don't realize this, I don't want to be too basic, but a lot of people I've talked to just don't get this. When your tire is spinning around on the road, everybody thinks because it's bulging at the bottom, that the bottom would be where it's taking the abuse. In reality, the air inside your tire is what lets this tire hang from the top of the tire. So every revolution, it's stretching at the top as the vehicle's weight hangs off the sidewall, and then your sidewall is compressing as it comes around. But it's actually the top of the sidewall that's supporting the vehicle, not the bottom. It doesn't matter. But that's the primary source of heat in the tire, is this continual cycle of compression as it cycles onto the asphalt, and expansion as it stretches at the top. And just like a rubber band will break, if you sit there and stretch it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, the rubber band breaks because it gets heated up to its thermal limits. So these tires get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter until they find a failure point. And these are made out of rubber. So if you ever watch a tire get built up, they get laminated out of multiple plies and multiple layers of rubber. And as that rubber reaches a certain temperature, it starts to delaminate. That's why you get these really common, these Chinese tires, they'll just completely delaminate. You'll see the tread completely separate off the tire. And that's because they were heated beyond what the rubber was rated to be able to hold the tire together, essentially. Imagine that the rubber is the glue that holds the whole thing together. So anyway, so the sidewall thickness is important in the length of the tire. But this is a Load Range D, much heavier duty than the Load Range C. And this is a Goodyear tire. So this is actually pretty amazing. This tire is 10 years old. It's been outside of its entire life. And as you can see, no dry rotting, no weather checking. This tire is actually in The rubber's in really good shape. So that's what you're getting when you buy a Goodyear tire. You're getting, you know, quality rubber. And then, so these were on my flatbed. The Goodyears were. I actually thought they were low range E, but they're low range D. So this is what I'm replacing them with. This is I talked about these I have another video about them. These are Hercules H-901s. And this particular tire is a 235/85/17, which is a large tire. But this is what you'll find standard on a lot of your fifth wheel toy haulers and even some of your tandem axle bumper pulls. Normally this will be either in a load range D or a load range E. So the default suggestion for a load range E tire seems to be the Goodyear Endurance in a load range E, which is a great tire, but it's a great tire. It's a great step up from the Chinese tires that come on. But what I want to show you about these, this is a all steel construction tire. So just for me to lift this up here, it's a very, very heavy tire. Okay, so it's all steel, and this is a load range G. Almost all the other load range G tires are beyond load range E and 16s. Goodyear does make one. They make an all steel. I think it's called the GSC. It's like $350 a tire. So to replace a set of four, $1,400. It's just out of the real world budget for most campers. This particular tire you can find online for $170, so it's around half, $170, $180 at the time I'm filming this. So it's about half the price of the Goodyear, and it's still a fantastic tire. So this is a load range G 14 ply, and this has the 14 ply is PR, so it's ply rating. So plies, tread, steel, 4, sidewall, steel, 1. So this is the first tire that we've looked at that had a steel ply in the sidewall, and that's what an all steel construction means. It means you don't have nylon or polyester in your sidewall, you have a steel ply, which makes it more durable. And if you look at your bead seating area in this, it's absolutely massive. So if you were to curb this, you know, you're not going to pop this off the rim. And the reason you have such a larger bead is not just the robust construction of the tire, but also because when you move to a load range G, you're looking at a max inflation pressure of 110 psi. So your load range C, they're like 45, 50 psi. Load range D is going to be a couple psi higher. Load range E is usually 60, 70, 80. Some of them are even 90 now, but probably the Goodyears are higher. I don't have one in front of me to look at. When you move to these load range G, even the Fs, you're going to see the 110 psi. And that's, you know, commercial truck tire pressures. And the reason they're able to sustain that pressure is because they have these massive sidewalls in that all steel construction. And the reason you want 110 psi is because the more pressure you have in here, the less your sidewall is deforming as you make those revolutions down the road, especially on longer trips, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour trips. You're getting less compression, less expansion as the tire makes its revolution because the additional pressure keeps the tire in a more uniform shape. So yes, that is going to transmit a little more vibration into your camper. You're not going to be back there. I don't think that's an issue. The sidewalls on these are basically the same thickness as the bead seating area. There's no taper, which it's amazing. They are a real pain in the butt to mount. I mount my tires by hand. But these Hercules All Steel, they're made in Thailand, not in China. They seem to have very good quality control. I run these on my camper. I'm running on my flatbed. And I recommend them to just about anybody. I think they're a nice step towards a quality tire without spending $350 a tire, but moving away from the Chinese construction. There are other load range G tires like the Freedom Haulers, a couple other brands. Salon is one that a lot of people like. They are made in China. I feel like the issue with Chinese construction is that it's up to the brand or the manufacturer to do quality control to make sure that the tires are going to meet or exceed their expectations, because it just doesn't seem like the Chinese companies are doing that in the factories. So you have to trust the brand to do it. Now, Salon in particular had a bad run of tires. I want to say they were load range F or G16s. And this was like 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. But at the time, I was kind of active in an online community of rock crawling enthusiasts. And a lot of those guys had switched to the Salons. They were really happy with them. they had a bad batch, and one hot day, all those guys were headed to a race, and 2 or 3 of them experienced blowouts from the same batch. So, again, with the Chinese manufacturers, it's up to them to enforce this quality control. And for me, the price difference between getting one that's made outside China, if this one's made in Thailand, it's negligible compared to the Salins. So, but I would take this tire, this Hercules Load Range D, over a Goodyear Endurance any day. I just think this is a better made tire. But I wanted to talk about some of the issues with tire construction while I talk about it. Another thing to consider, watch out, Charlie, watch out, is, again, I don't have new tires here to compare this to, but when you get this Load Range D, it's a commercial tire, you see these ribs, you see the thickness of the tread, and this is, you don't have to worry about squirm or anything else like you would with brand new, smaller or lower duty trailer tires. You know, you're gonna get tens of thousands of miles out of this tire if you're the type of person that puts a lot of miles on their camper. You're not gonna have to worry about running the tread on this thing low. You're still gonna, I mean, tires still age out. They say 6 years no matter what, and it seems like they change it every year. I think they said 5 years last year, but you know, this tire is gonna last a long time. It's a commercial grade tire, all steel construction, very, very sturdy. So we're gonna go and get this on this wheel, and I've got a couple more to do for my flatbed trailer, but just wanted to share that with you guys. So while I was getting ready to mount the next tire, my son came out and helped me take off one of the other trailer tires so I could roll it in here and start working on getting the beads off. And he's only 4, his name's Clay, and he is like a complete natural with the impact gun. I thought it was pretty funny. So my big half-inch drive, 1,400 foot-pound Milwaukee was a little bit too much for him. So I set him up with the stubby 1/4-inch drive, which is the hex drive. And this thing actually did a surprisingly good job. It took off the lug nuts on that trailer, which had been torqued to 90 foot-pounds, which is the spec for most 16-inch wheels with half-inch studs, 9/16. You go up just a little bit. You know, really, around 90 to 110 foot-pounds is what you want to torque your stuff at, and that's going to help you get it off easier on the side of the road. It doesn't need to be tighter than that to stay tight. But this thing did a really good job taking them off. I was very impressed with this. This thing's really big to carry around, so this is a smaller one that will still take off lug nuts if you torque them yourself. If you take your vehicle to a tire shop and let them send them Ooga Doogas with those big 3/4-inch drive air guns that they use, there's no telling what it'll take to get them off. So let's see how fast we can get this one on. So I've never had this happen with a tire. These tires just keep wanting to fold instead of just the inside bead going on. Like the whole tire wants to walk on in, which it doesn't work for the way I'm trying to put them on. So sometimes you'll get in these situations with these big irons where you can squeeze a smaller iron in over the lip, and it'll actually help you more than these really big ones. In this case, I'm going to try using both. There we go. All right. So this is the point of the game where some lube on that bead can help. So anytime you're mounting tires, you always want to use a clip-on air chuck so you can get away from the tire when you're seating the bead. You never want to stand over it. This is called a bead blaster. It's a lot safer and a lot easier than trying to use ether and all that nonsense you see all the EE boys do on their channels. So there's a lot of ways you can mount tires. You don't need a manual tire changer. You can set the tire on the ground and do it just fine yourself using a couple tire irons. You know, I've even seen people in a pinch do it with crowbars and screwdrivers. But the one thing I see so many people take chances with is when they seat these beads. You saw me use the bead blaster, like that's a good way to do it. But beyond that, when you seat a bead, the tire is popping up. Inside the wheel there's little lips, and it's bumping over those and seating against this outer lip. So it's like an inner lip and an outer lip. So when you seat the bead, it's the bead of the tire popping between those two lips. And every once in a while, a tire can slip all the way past the second one and hit this outer lip with such force that it'll blow all the way past. It's called blowing a bead. And if you have a tire laying on a shop floor, like you'll see guys in these videos, leaning over a tire, and this tire's done. But you'll see these guys in these videos laying over a tire with a press-on chuck, and it's so dangerous because if that bead's seated and the bottom bead blew past that outer lip, then all the pressure that's in that tire is going to turn into a projectile. And there are documented cases in workplace safety lawsuits that I read in law school in Texas of a wheel and tire assembly blowing out that bottom bead while a worker was laying over it, completely taking his head off. They said it was nearly a medical decapitation. And then hitting the roof of a metal building so hard that it dented the roof and put a hole in it, even after it took his head off. That's how much power is in, and that was just a light truck tire. It doesn't take 110 psi, which is what these tires will handle. So anytime you're seating a bead after you've mounted a tire, you have to get that bead up off the ground to give that energy somewhere to go just in case the worst would happen. So this is perfectly safe because this is up off the ground. A way overlooked option is just mounting it to your car, because if it's held in with even a couple lug nuts, it's not going anywhere, no matter which bead blows. And you absolutely have to get a clip-on chuck, which I use clip-on chucks on all my stuff. I just hate press-on chucks. And when I talk about press-on chucks, I have one over here somewhere. Let's see. I'm not sure where it went, but this is a regular kind that you push on. You have to hold in place while you inflate the tire. They're so dangerous for seating beads because you have to hold them in place so your arm can get broken off. And usually if your arm is leaning over, what's the rest of our body doing? It's leaning over right where that bead's going to blow, just in case. And that happens. Like if you talk to tire professionals, that's a real thing that these guys see in their careers. So if you are seating beads, don't lean over the tire. And what kills me is when these guys do doubly dangerous stuff by spraying ether into the tire and then leaning over it with a chuck, because that you have no way of knowing what force that ether is going to pop with. You can take 2 cans of ether, shake them up and spray them and get a different reaction from one than the other. There's no like standard for how explosive a container of ether has to be. So, you know, when you do that stuff, I know it just seems like a little, like, I don't want to be Mr. Safety, because if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I'm not. I do try and take care of myself. I want to be there for my kids 20 or 30 years from now. And it seems cool for YouTube to do the whole ether trick and spray it, but, I mean, you're really, people think the worst that could happen is a pair of singed eyebrows, but the worst that could happen is losing an arm or even losing your head when that bead blows. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox about that. This tire's mounted. I used the vice grip clamp trick, where I'll clamp the vice grip. That lets me work the other side of the tire without having to be over here. If you have 2 guys, you don't have to do that. So you can have one person over here. You have to hold the bead in that groove in the tire. There's a little dip in every wheel that the bead has to ride in order for it to fit across the opposite side of the wheel. But these are mounted up, so now they just need to go on the trailer. These are very heavy tires, and I think I'm just going to keep the best Goodyear around for a spare. The trailer doesn't go on a ton of long distance trips, so it should be adequate for a spare tire for now. May eventually replace it with something like this, but anyway, this will get me on my trip this weekend, since the Goodyears were not really roadworthy anymore. Just too low on air. Thank you guys for watching, and stay safe. Prepare, for these emergencies. Imagine to yourself, like so many people tow a camper and they forget, what if I have a blowout in my camper? Do I have a wood block so I can use my factory jack? That's what I had to do last year. Do I carry a floor jack that's big enough to easily jack up the camper? Do I know how to jack up my camper? Can I jack off the frame? Do I have to jack up to the axles? You need to research these things so that you're prepared. I carry a plug kit and a small compressor. Using the plug, a lot of people say it ruins a tire because you're penetrating the belts. But if it gets you off the side of the road, I mean, it's just the most dangerous place to be. There's so many distracted drivers these days. So carry the stuff you need. Carry an impact so you can get it done quick and you're not messing around with a 4-way on the side of the road, distracted, trying to figure out which end goes on the nut. Know what lug nut sizes you have so you can get out of your vehicle. Like a lot of times when I drive, I know 13/16s are the lug nuts on my trailers. So you'll see, if you ever look in the back of my truck, my impact's already preloaded. It's got a battery unclipped next to it so it doesn't get depressed in the back of the truck and run the battery dead. And the impact already has a 13/16 clipped on it, so it's ready to go. And I have that little jack that I showed in one of my earlier videos that I built. And it's set up for a 13/16 as well. So I can just pull those out, zip the jack up, take the tire off, and probably be back on the road in 10 or 15 minutes. But anyway, stay safe, everybody. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this helps somebody out. So I'm going to link to the rest of my camper videos with this if you want to see more camping content, trailer content. I have a lot of that on my channel. Stick around, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.